So now let's dive into some recent news that we had happen not too long ago was the Fed announcement. So this is kind of like the Bank of Canada, but in the States. And essentially, Jerome Powell, he came out and he mentioned, "Hey, our rate increases are done. We're done increasing rates. We are going to most likely cut rates 3 times next year," which is like you don't hear that typically from the Fed or Bank of Canada saying something bold like that. But he went out and he said that, which caused the bond market to go crazy here in Canada, which then led to those fixed rates. So when I mentioned that they're not tied together, they are in some respects, but it's really cool to see that. And so with that being said, the Bank of Canada typically follows what the Fed does as well. So we can likely see the same thing happen on our side. So then the question becomes how much are they going to cut each time they go to cut? So let's just use a hypothetical and say that they're going to cut 3 times. This is the Bank of Canada. So if you just use 0.25, usually when it comes to cutting rates or increasing, it's a minimum of 0.25%. So if we go with the bare minimum at 0.25%, that's 0.75%. That's going to be cut next year. That's just a general hypothesis there. And we're going to talk about our predictions later on. But that is really causing buyers to come back into the market on our side that we're seeing too, because people are predicting that rates are going to be dropping at some point next year. So that's what we're seeing. Brandon, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so on the Canadian side of the border, Tiff Macklem, that's the Canadian Jerome Powell, so his buddy to the north. He was a little bit more cautious on his outlook, largely because he didn't want to have a bunch of people flood back into the real estate market because real estate is a big driver of Canadian inflation and then kind of screw up the progress they had made there. So he was a bit more lukewarm on his sentiments, but the writing's on the wall. There's they can't really goose it up too much higher without triggering a full-blown recession, and they're looking for that soft landing.
I think he learned the lesson the hard way, or he learned his lesson the hard way when he mentioned that rates were going to stay low until 2024. So I think you'll always see him tread lightly going on towards the future here.
Yeah, he really bit himself in the ass with that one. That
Yeah,
didn't age.
exactly. Yeah, so another thing to consider is the Bank of Canada knows this too, is that there's a lot of mortgages coming up for renewal in 2025 and 2026. I would even go out to say 2024, we're seeing a lot of them too, but mostly 2025 is when we're going to see a lot of them. So in preparation for that, the Bank of Canada, the government, they don't want to see people default on their mortgage. They don't want to see any repercussions because if you're looking at that side of all these people that are coming up for renewal, the majority of them have locked into a mortgage back in 2020, 2021, which we had the historical low rates there. So they're going to have a huge payment shock coming out to renewal in 2025 and 6. And if we don't start lowering rates and we have the same rates that we have today, those people are going to experience the shock and the government does not want to see that. So that is a factor that they do have to consider and they know that. So that's why we're saying we are going to see cuts. It's just a matter of like when and by how much. And to give you like just an example of that, we like for stats wise, we have 2.2 to 3.4 million Canadians that have mortgages that are coming up for renewal, which represents about half of mortgage holders in Canada. So that's a staggering number. So it's not peanuts. Like half of people that have mortgages in Canada are coming up for renewal in those 2 years.
Yeah, and it's important to know, like, these people got them at rock bottom prices. Like, that part cannot be underscored anymore. Like, that payment shock is going to be huge for them, and you touched on that, but for a lot of people, they're gonna be looking to the government, and they're gonna be looking for answers here. It also coincides timing-wise with election campaigns and things of that nature, so there's gonna be pressure across the board to get some of this stuff nipped in the bud.